with Mexico, but this will send it over to the Senate. All members, as I say, have taken the oath of office. We would be delinquent in our duties if we did not resist, we did not fight back and to overturn the President's declaration. To not do that would be to abandon our own responsibilities. We do not intend to do that. With that, I'm pleased to yield to the distinguished gentleman from Texas, a gentleman who, again, has been working on this for a while, and he has he made sure that we were ready. And before I bring him on, though, I want to say that our distinguished chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Nadler, is in the Rules Committee on this very subject, or other subjects as well, because we have a busy week. But Mr. Castro will be followed by Leader Hoyer, Whip Clyburn, and Madeline Dean, a member of our freshman class, an expert on our Constitution from Pennsylvania. Now it is my privilege to yield to Chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Castro. Here. That is an applause.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for your leadership in marshaling support on H.J. Res. 46. About 6 weeks ago, when the rumors started that President Trump might declare a national emergency to build his border wall across the U.S. Mexico border, my staff and I began working with Legislative Counsel to try to find a way to make sure that Congress would have a say in this matter. The result of that is H.J. Res. 46, which would terminate the President's declaration of a national emergency to build his border wall. Our country, since its founding, has become the most prosperous and powerful nation on earth without any wall. That's why I believe most of the American people and most people in my home state of Texas disagree with the President building a wall across our border. The President consistently said that any wall would be paid for by Mexico. Well, Mexico refused to pay, and Congress refused to pay. And so the President, rather than letting things be, decided that he would act unilaterally, unconstitutionally, by usurping the power of Congress. Today, we ask all members of Congress to respect the rule of law with us, to respect the separation of powers enshrined in our Constitution, and to support this resolution. If the President is successful in getting his way on this, rest assured he will come back. He will try this again, probably on other issues, as will future presidents. The Congress must step up, must reclaim its role over the power of the purse. This resolution is critically important to the future of the relationship between the legislative and the executive branches, above and beyond any party, above and beyond any president. This will require historic unity among members of Congress to make sure that this branch of government maintains its rightful place under our Constitution. I want to say thank you to the now 230 members of Congress who are co-sponsors in the House of Representatives. We look forward to picking up more support, including bipartisan support, when we take the vote tomorrow. I want to thank Leader Pelosi for moving swiftly to put this on the floor for a vote. I also look forward to the Senate taking a vote on this privileged resolution. There have been many senators, Democrats, but also conservative Republicans, who have sounded the alarm about President Trump's declaration. I hope that they will vote their conscience, that they, for a moment, will put the country above any worry of their own political concerns or futures. That is what is required of us now. With that, I'd like to bring up our esteemed leader from Maryland, Steny Hoyer.
Thank you very much, Congressman Castro. Leader Pelosi, Whip Clyburn, and the members who stand behind me. Ms. Escobar is here. She and I were in El Paso 2 weeks ago. I don't know whether Sochi is here. Sochi is not here, but Sochi's Torres Small and I were in New Mexico 2 weeks ago. And 2 days ago, I was at the border just south of San Diego with Congressman Peters, Congressman Levin, and Congressman Juan Vargas.
I'm here.
Is that a pause line?
I am not taking roll. And what I concluded, there is no crisis at the border. The issue tomorrow will be whether there is a crisis of our constitutional adherence. Whether there is a crisis because there is a lack of conscience and courage among the members of the House of Representatives and subsequently the United States Senate to stand up for what the Founding Fathers want. They did not want King George. They'd had enough of King George telling them what to do. And so they created this extraordinary government of separation of powers, where each had their responsibility, and the other could not tread on that responsibility and authority. That's what tomorrow's vote is about. Not a wall, but the Constitution. The wall is an important issue, but the Constitution is a transcendent issue. And the issue will be whether or not the Congress of the United States will exercise the authority given to it under Article 1 of the Constitution, or whether it will abdicate its responsibilities. I hope that every member of the Congress votes not for party, not for a president, but votes for a constitutional system that has preserved democracy for over 2 centuries because of the checks and balances that we talk so much about, and that tomorrow we will have the opportunity to commit ourselves to, not just talk about it. So I pray that the members of the House will have the conscience and the courage to protect the greatest Constitution the world has ever seen. The American people will be watching. And now I yield to my friend from South Carolina, the distinguished Majority Whip, Jim Clyburn.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leila Hoyer. Speaker Pelosi, Chairman Castro, Representative Dean, and other colleagues. Earlier today, 58 bipartisan former national security officials issued a statement declaring there is no factual basis for issuing an emergency declaration. There is no emergency. In fact, as stated by them and others, crossings at the border have reached a 40-year low. That's a fact. There's been no emergency, no crisis of a judicial, a legal determination has been made at the border. And it is a fact that over 90% of all the drugs that come into this country via the southern border come through the ports of entry. Consequently, it would seem to us that the better part of wisdom would be for us to shore up the security at the ports of entry. And so it seems to me that we are lurching from one manufactured crisis to another. And this president must be checked by this Congress in order to maintain the stability and the integrity of who and what we are as a country. And with that, I yield to Representative Dean.
Speaker Pelosi, Leader Hoyer, Whip Clyburn, Congressman Castro, and to all of my colleagues. I'm delighted to be here with you, though I'm not delighted at the reason. I am pleased to stand with you and to stand up for the American people. And I appreciate my colleagues' very powerful arguments about the constitutionality of what we have seen from the President's actions. For the past 2 months, the President has held our political process hostage. He failed to persuade Congress or the American people to pay for a costly, ineffective border wall. So now he plans outright theft. And the irony, he plans to steal from the very people who keep us safe, our military. The President aims to take billions of dollars from high-priority military construction projects, threatening our service members' training, readiness, their families, and their quality of life. I wanted to tell you just a little bit about what's at stake in my home state of Pennsylvania. These projects could include $71 million for a Navy submarine propulsor manufacturing facility in Philadelphia. They could include an $85 million Air Force Reserve construction project in Pittsburgh. It could include $8 million for National Guard operations training facilities and dining hall in our Fort Indiantown Gap. That's just one state. That's just Pennsylvania and just some of what is at stake. Across the country and around the world, hundreds of more projects are under threat, projects that have been carefully evaluated and voted on by Congress and signed into law and appropriated for. These are big projects. They have enormous impact on service members, their communities, our national economy, our national readiness. The federal government, including the President, made promises to our military, and we have no plans to break them. For all his tough talk, the President shows little regard for the people who actually keep America safe. During his record-breaking shutdown, President Trump forced those very people, the Coast Guard, the Border Patrol, TSA, to work without pay. Now he aims to take money that Congress allocated to support our military, money that does not belong to this president, to spend it to gratify his ego and build a wall that you remember Mexico was supposed to pay for. Here's the bottom line. This country operates according to the rule of law. When leaders go outside the law, when they disrespect the Constitution and democratic norms that make America so special, they do lasting damage. America can't afford it, Congress won't allow it, and that's what I'm so pleased to stand with these extraordinary leaders to say we will not allow it. I yield back to the distinguished speaker.
Thank you so much. Again, with appreciation to the author of this privileged resolution, Chairman Castro, and in recognition of the support that he has gathered for it, and so many of our members showing up even before we have votes on the floor of the House. Let me just say, Mr. Hoyer referenced going to the border. I, too, was at the border this weekend with Mr. Cuellar in Laredo. And I tell you this for this reason. In Laredo each year, and I've been there 3 times now, they have the most beautiful celebration of Washington's birthday. They honor Washington, George, and Martha, both. And it's a multi-day observance of what our founding father and mother presented to our country. To see 96% of Laredo was Hispanic, to see the pride of heritage and the deep patriotism side by side, just strengthening each other, is a joy that I wish the entire country could behold. The patriotism of the people who live at the border, which we consider a community with a border going through it. What the President is saying about the border is mythology. It is not reality. But this is not about the wall. Whatever you may think about the wall, think about the Constitution of the United States. And our colleagues have talked about believing that our members were doing this. I know that they will. I know that our Republican colleagues care about the Constitution of the United States. I know that they believe in the separation of power. I know that they would not want a president, Republican or Democrat, to usurp the powers of the institution in which we serve. I know that they are committed to strengthening this Congress of the United States, which is the institution in which we all serve as part of the separation of powers, the checks and balances, the strength that we all bring as in the People's House and in the Senate as well. So I thank all of my colleagues for signing on, again, to the leadership of Chairman Joaquin Castro. We still have the beard? Yeah.
I do.
Still has the beard. In any event, this is an historic moment for our country. Perhaps it gives us affords us the opportunity to have an all-American civics lesson about the Constitution of the United States, the protections contained therein, including freedom of the press, which is the strength of which is the guardian of the gate of our democracy. Thank you all for